really weirdness how did we get high like we usually do between videos of each other again? Slowbeef was about to answer Diabeetus' question, but was interrupted by a giant blue and purple dragon made of pixels going past them overhead. They were now in a huge room that glowed blue and purple, but it was dark purple, so it didn't seem as gay. Looking around the room, they saw something that surprised them. They were standing on a catwalk in the middle of a room containing videos of every LP ever made. Hey, Diabeetus, look at that! Slowbeef shouted, pointing at the monitor. Diabeetus looked to where his finger led. On the screen was a really grimy and old video that showed a chessboard on it. You could almost see two sets of hands on either end of the board since there were people playing. So obviously, they were at the table of the board and they had their hands on it so they could manipulate the pieces more better. The camera was shaking at an angle because it was hard to get hold the camera at a good angle like that, especially since the camera guy gave up and just hung it overhead on the board so he could see not bad. And we doth have if the Majestane Lord Edward for playeth the king with Saladin in thine a greater gamut of check. Author's note. Chess was called that back then. They are being imposed amazing place in the check. Wished it, Edward. You sit the Queen's Gambit. The player in the red. With a side of notice. The other dude left one little rose unguarded on his side and saw its chance. He took his horse and pushed it all the way to the other end. The other player was shocked and stared in disbelief and started crying a bit. Kingish me, said Edward. The crow went nuts and started cheering because they were bored and not having much else to do because there weren't video games in the 1800s and they had to do boring shit like chess every day. What's if game it? Diabeetus stopped paying attention because he was bored and he went off to go get Slowbeef who had fallen asleep on the catwalk. Thankfully, he not fallen off if he did. Slowbeef mumbled. Diabeetus beamed and had an idea. Oh, I had the shit, so I used one of these LPs. What? Not one of hers, you piece of shit? No, it was violin bows. Oh, okay. And then they started walking on the catwalk for a while, looking at some of the LPs that were surrounding them, and went further on to the room in the center of it. Most of them sucked. They eventually walked past Slowbeef's LP of Super Metroid, which sucked really bad, seriously. Wow, Slowbeef, you are a LP of Super Metroid sucked really bad. Shut up or I'll kill you. And they moved on again. They eventually left the end of the catwalk and they saw Poke Captain standing on the edge of the room looking away at a thing. Poke Captain, what the fuck is wrong with you? Slowbeef interrogated. Slowbeef, you came this far. Do you see the grand empire you built? He spun around with his arms out to try to be dramatic, show off how big the room is, but he just looked really kind of stupid and stuff. I know, that's why I decided to take up my mental in stone. Duh. What do you think I've been doing for the past 20 years? I suppose none of that matters now. A figure that was dark and shouted walked out from about Poke Captain. He snapped his fingers really loud, and I heard Diabeetus' ear. Teleport! The man British. The ground beneath Slowbeef and Diabeetus removed. They fell down the LV stream with no idea what had happened, and you would have heard falling into a pook of data, but I don't know. Slowbeef remembered when he had met Schmorky, but he's a creeper, so he decided to remember back to when he met Cherry Doom instead. Hey, can I make videos of you guys? The pudgy girl asked. Sure, whatever, I don't give a shit, the fat man responded. Slowbeef realized that it was a really boring flashback, so he had one when we went to Vicus instead. It was a hot day, and Slowbeef came home and said, "Damn it! One of these days I need to make LP my full-time job." He said to himself, because weird people do that sometimes. I guess he went inside. He took off his shoes and glanced in the mirror, and had a thought. Maybe if he was less ugly or something, more people would watch his videos, and then he could make more videos and achieve his dream. Would that work? He wondered to himself. No, because you can't really be hot, Slowbeef. But what if you had someone more attractive for you? You mean Diabeetus? I glared at him and asked him what the fuck fanfic was made, and he shut up instantly. So no, I mean you should find someone else new to help you. Okay, that might work. So we went to go on the Yellow Pages because that was years ago, and Skype was garbage. So he found some mercantile LPers he could hire, but they're all like probably stupid. So he found some random guy's phone number, called him, and hoped for the best. Dude, it's like 4 in the morning. Why are you calling me? Slowbeef and Dad failed to remember New York time distance and felt like a douche. Sorry, I was wondering, would you help me with LPs? What the hell are those? Slowbeef to that of the least nerdy way to face it possible. It's where you play video games for the internet and talk about it and stuff. Will you quit calling me at 4 in the goddamn morning? Slowbeef agreed, and the next is history. He could tell by his voice he was a hot dude, and I didn't want to say that, but he sounded really gay, but he used the word styling instead, because this was the past. It didn't work out, but at least he tried, I guess. Slowbeef woke up in a dark pit, and with a glowing light in the center. Diabeetus was on the ground next to him, out of conscious. Slowbeef thought to himself about asking Vicus and his dudes for help and mentioned, but he thought to himself, why would the hell would I bring a cancer patient, a trainee, and a brony? It's seriously a freaking plague of stupid. Be helpful. He woke up and examined the light. It was emanated from a large spinning cube in the center. It kind of looked like the GameCube logo thing, only a lot shinier, and it spun faster and lit up the room and looked really cool. Diabeetus woke up and as it started spinning really fast. Dude, what the hell is that thing? He wondered. Slowbeef reached out to try to touch it. His voice shouted, "No!" But it was too late. Slowbeef had already touched it, and everything turned white around him. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew he had continued here, he'd soon meet his destiny. Chapter 5 on Life, Let's Plays, and Apples. Slowbeef had been grown tired of his way his life has been. He felt to him almost as if he's steadily strapped tightly in a line right in an amusement park, in a day-to-day bought plethora upon plethora of diversified scenery to him to glance at and forget at a moment's notice. His life had not been all that bad, but it appeared that brief, fleeting glimpses of happiness onto him on those days when he meet up with Diabeetus or spend a day with his fiancée had been growing few and farther between. His life has grown so utterly narrow that he can only count the days. Slowbeef was lost on an ocean, rocking and wavering far beyond his control, and only recently began to notice and accept this unnerving truth. He got up and out of his bed early and alone. Through the cascading coat and the blur of his rapidly ailing vision, he could just barely see the time of day. It was only 2:30 at that moment. Slowbeef knew that he would not be able to get back to sleep at this point, and he didn't want to face that dream once more anyways. He set out towards the bathroom. He did not bother dressing. For the previous night he had seen him come home a mere several hours before the present time of the writing, and simply fallen into slumber at once. His short journey down the hallway outside his bedroom felt like an odyssey, as he couldn't help but remember the dream that had woken him in the first place. The words and feelings of him affected him, and the impact clearly showed upon his subconscious, correlatively. He knew that people, especially those communicating anonymously over the internet, would always overreact and volley doctrines of hate, targeted both at him and at each other. But even the people that he was on relatively good terms seemed to overestimate his stoic's tolerance, as he has shown in the past. The truth of the matter was, Slowbeef was a nicer guy than most people thought, and more than he would give himself credit for. The diatribe of malice he faced wore him down so thoroughly as to leave him a fleeting shadow once he once stood between their eyes. But yes, it was his dreams indeed that really tore at him these days. It was where his image of the internet falsely endeavored, and endeared to him to come onto an absolution. Upon the reaches of the mind of the man himself, he dreamed of all kind of color and blood spilling all over his hands, as he could only watch behind cold eyes as he saw murder, manipulation, and atrocity committed time after time with the very same hands. The scenario shook him to the core as it played out through his psyche, but what disturbed him even more was the blurring. Just as he could see less and less of the world around him without manufactured aid to his vision, he was beginning to tell fact and fiction, dream and reality less and less apart in his day-to-day life. Slowbeef was not an unintelligent man. No. He was also not an effusive man, to say the least. He spent no great deal of thought on the matter, but he drew a feeling saint slate and internal artifice every day. Well, it wasn't so good at drawing air height either, he supposed. There's simply no